30 years ago, the land now known as Dubai was a silent stretch of desert and coastline where life moved slowly under extreme heat, where endless sand stretched in every direction and nothing suggested the rise of a global city. There were no skyscrapers, no highways filled with traffic, no glowing skyline at night. Only small coastal settlements where fishing boats rested along the shore and life depended entirely on the rhythm of the sea and desert. Pearl diving shaped survival as men risked their lives diving into deep waters without modern equipment to collect pearls that determined whether families could survive another season. And inland, the desert offered no comfort, only heat, scarcity, and silence, where homes were built simply for protection against the environment rather than for comfort or ambition. And nothing in this landscape suggested the extraordinary transformation that would one day follow. Life in early Dubai was defined entirely by survival. Fishing and pearl diving were not industries of wealth but of necessity, where success was uncertain and danger was constant. Divers would hold their breath for long periods in deep waters searching for pearls that might or might not exist, while fishing communities depended on unpredictable seas that often gave little in return, and inland the desert offered no agriculture, no infrastructure, and no economic stability. Everything depended on endurance rather than development. Yet even in this harsh environment, communities formed, traditions survived, and a quiet identity began to take shape without any awareness that this place would one day become globally significant. Then came the discovery of oil, a turning point that did not immediately transform everything, but instead introduced a new possibility for the future. Because oil alone does not guarantee progress, decisions do. And the real question became what this resource would be used for, whether it would create short-term wealth or long-term development. And in this moment, a shift began to form. As leadership recognized that natural resources are temporary, but infrastructure, trade, and global connectivity can create lasting influence. And slowly, the focus began to move toward building systems that could survive beyond oil itself. Instead of relying only on oil, early development began focusing on long-term infrastructure. Roads replaced desert pathways, ports were expanded to strengthen trade routes, and airports were developed to connect the region to global networks, slowly transforming Dubai from an isolated settlement into a strategic geographical hub between continents. And although the world still did not notice these changes, internally, a foundation was being built that would later support one of the fastest transformations in modern history. A deeper transformation was taking place that could not be seen in buildings or roads, but in mindset. Because Dubai was no longer thinking as a small coastal town, it was beginning to think like a global city. The desert was no longer seen as a limitation, but as an opportunity, and ambition replaced survival as the driving force. And once this shift happened, development stopped being slow and reactive and became intentional, focused on creating a future that did not yet exist, but was being actively designed. As ambition grew, construction began accelerating rapidly. Infrastructure expanded, roads widened, districts were redesigned, and buildings began rising across the landscape where empty desert once dominated. And although the world was still not fully aware of what was happening, Dubai was already transforming itself at a pace that defied traditional urban development, turning planning into execution and execution into continuous expansion. Over time, the speed and scale of transformation became impossible to ignore, and the world slowly began paying attention. Investors arrived, tourism increased, and global media started highlighting the rapid changes taking place as Dubai transitioned from a regional development story into a global curiosity. But even then, The full magnitude of transformation was still underestimated because attention alone does not define a global city. Architecture does. Massive engineering projects began reshaping the city. Artificial islands were constructed with precision that challenged engineering limits. Luxury developments attracted global elites, shopping complexes expanded beyond traditional scale, and iconic skyscrapers rose above the desert. Redefining what modern cities could look like until Dubai was no longer just developing. It was actively rewriting global expectations of architecture and ambition. Behind the global image of luxury and futuristic living, another reality existed. Built by a massive workforce of migrant laborers who constructed the infrastructure, towers, and developments that defined the skyline, often living far from the luxury districts that represented Dubai's global identity, creating a dual structure within the same city, one of visibility and wealth, and another of labor and sacrifice, revealing the complexity behind rapid transformation. Despite its global rise, Dubai's story is still not finished because new questions continue to emerge about sustainability, long-term economic balance, environmental pressure, and dependence on tourism-driven growth. And as the city continues expanding with even more ambitious projects, it becomes clear that this is not a completed story, but an ongoing experiment in human ambition. And as the skyline continues to glow across the desert night, the most powerful truth is that all of this transformation happened within a single generation, turning silence into spectacle and emptiness into one of the most recognizable cities on Earth, leaving behind not just a modern metropolis, but a continuing question about what human ambition is truly capable of creating when it refuses to accept limits.